Very much, and I want to thank Ms. Ross-Leighton for bringing the bill up. I want to thank my partner, Congressman Smith, and I want to thank the Democratic leader, Congresswoman Pelosi, for being there at every time, including the time you stood up to the Chinese government at Tiananmen Square when you were almost arrested. So I want to thank the Democratic leader for her help and support on every time an issue of human rights in China has come up. Thank you very much. 25 years ago, peaceful pro-democracy demonstrators, many of them students, most of them students, gathered in Tiananmen in a move for greater openness, transparency, and a rule of law. But what could have marked the beginning of a peaceful political transition in China was brutally crushed by the People's Liberation Army. A historic moment of opportunity was, quite frankly, lost. By nearly every measure, China is today as intolerant of dissent as it's ever been. Just read today's New York Times, where they talk about they're cracking down, telling people, do not go to Tiananmen. Like authoritarian governments before it, the Chinese government remains deeply frightened. They are frightened. They are literally afraid of their own people. They're afraid of the spirit that animated that protest, namely the yearning for basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. I first went to China in 1991 with my good friend Congressman Chris Smith in New Jersey. It was during this trip we visited Beijing Prison No. 1. Chinese authorities informed us, and we saw them, that approximately 40 Tiananmen Square protesters were in the prison. Our request was to see the demonstrators. They were denied, but Chinese authorities gave us a tour of the prison's textile and plastic shoe factories. We saw them making socks. These are the socks that they were making. In fact, there are golfers on the side, and in those days, they didn't play golf. Tiananmen Square demonstrators were making socks for Americans to wear as they play golf. I took with me some of the socks the prisoners were making because they were coming to our country. That experience captures in stark terms the failure of U.S. foreign policy, toward China over successive administrations, both Republican and Democrat alike. The United States has too often pursued a relationship that is fundamentally inconsistent with the most basic national values, marked by trade and unfettered market access at the expense of human rights and religious freedom and rule of law. President Reagan said that the words in the Constitution and the words in the Declaration of Independence were a covenant not only with the people in Philadelphia in 1776 and 1787, but with the people of Tiananmen and the people who want freedom all over the world. May this resolution by Congressman Smith and the approaching anniversary of that dark June day serve as a sobering reminder of the unmet yearning for basic human liberty, which compels men like Liu Xiaobo, himself an imprisoned Nobel laureate, won the 2010 Nobel Prize, was in prison. His wife is under house arrest. She couldn't even go to Norway to pick up the prize. And also the thousands of others whose names we do not know, but as Leader Pelosi said, they will be known in the West. Someday everyone will know who they are, and everyone will know who they are in China, and we will know the name of Tank Man, because Tank Man, that Ms. Pelosi talked about, has done more to bring about freedom than anything else, and we will know their names. I pray for the day that the Chinese government, the party and system responsible for the crackdown at Tiananmen, responsible for the continued repression, will be relegated to the, quote, ash heap of history. They will be relegated to the ash heap of history, and I believe that will come very soon. I believe it will come in my lifetime, particularly if the democratic aspirations of the Chinese people can find a champion. If they can find a champion in the United States of America. With that, I thank Mrs. Ross-Leighton for bringing this bill up. I thank Mr. Smith for this resolution and all the effort that he's done. And I wanted to again thank Democratic Leader Pelosi for her leadership in fighting on these issues of human rights and religious freedom, and yield back the balance of my time.